whenever they give you the miles and they give you a rate, well, number one, that rate does not include your deadhead miles. And that rate is based on their miles. So, if they're, let's say they're using zip code miles, I'm sitting here in a place called Toomsuba or something like that in Mississippi, right off of I-59, I-20, where they run together. And heard some guys inside talking about rates and fuel surcharge and things like that. And I wanted to share something with you I discovered a long time ago. Most of you probably already know, but some of you may not be aware. When you get a rate quote from a broker, it doesn't matter if you're an owner-operator with your own authority and your own equipment running the spot market. Doesn't matter if you're you own a truck and you're leased on with someone running under their own authority. They're dispatching you on loads. The miles are usually calculated differently. Some companies will actually quote you miles using air miles, which is significantly less than driving on the ground. Others will use the old mover's guide and go zip code to zip code and calculate miles that way. I will tell you that the most accurate that I've found thus far is Google Maps, as far as being able to know what the mileage is. Most of these loads that I have taken, whether it's running under my own authority or leased on with someone else, most of the loads that I have been given the rate information on, the mileage is always off 30, 50, 70 miles. And whenever they give you the miles and they give you a rate, well, number one, that rate does not include your deadhead miles. And that rate is based on their miles. So, if they're, let's say they're using zip code miles, and you look at Google Maps and there's a 50-mile difference. Well, that rate, that great rate that they gave you for that load has come down sometimes significantly. You have to sit back and do the math for every single load that you take. You need to know how many deadhead miles you're going to have, what your loaded miles are going to be. Take that rate and divide it into your total miles between deadhead and loaded and see where you're at then. It paints an entirely different picture, but you have to do that because brokers don't want to pay you for deadhead miles. If you're leased on running your truck on someone else's authority, that carrier doesn't want to pay you deadhead miles. They all want you to eat that. And, that's kind of the nature of the beast, but you still have to account for it. You need to account for it in your operating expenses, and you also need to keep track of it so that you can write off that expense on your taxes come into the year. Because that's just like everything else. When you're out here on the road, you should be keeping receipts for everything. Because if you're having to eat on the road, let's say that you don't have a microwave in your truck or a refrigerator or whatever, so you're having to constantly eat out all the time. Well, that's an expense you wouldn't have had if you were working at home. you can write that off come into the year on your taxes. It's kind of like if you took a job working at a plywood factory or a paper mill, and they required you to have steel-toed boots. Well, number one, they're going to reimburse you for those steel-toed boots, generally speaking, but you also get to write off that on your taxes because it was a requirement for work. So, I'm just telling you, sit back, and if you see, oh wow, I'm getting $3.54 a mile, do the math and you'll see you're really not getting $3.54 a mile. If you account for everything, you might be getting $3 a mile. You might be getting $3.24 a mile. You might be getting $2.97 a mile. You need to know your numbers, and that's the only way that you're going to succeed, whether you're in this business or some other business. You have to know your numbers. Keep that in mind. I'll see you down the road. Bye.